Let's see how we can approach this. Luckily enough, I have one other page. But before I put it up here, let me see whether we can bring ourselves together in this quest. We started with this vision of ignorance, right opinion, understanding, knowledge or wisdom. We see the need now for confirming understanding in this kind of a vision. This kind of a vision produces an insight into the nature of ultimate reality. It can be called the perfection of beauty. Subjectively, how is it described in terms of phenomena, as it were, phenomenologically? How might it be described? It can be described, therefore, as that luminous, overwhelming experience of beauty itself. Divine radiance is equally a convenient term to describe it. Now, this is called, from what we've been developing, the idea of the good. Using the word idea as to behold. Our question now is there something beyond that?
Yes, there would be immersed in not beholding it, but being it.
But in that experience, boy, he's in it, right?
Yeah.
He's in it. And therefore it fits the term of contemplation. So there's a total identity here between the two. Man recognizes in this the nature of himself and the nature of reality is one, no difference. Why isn't that sufficient? Now, the whole work of the Republic has this as its goal. And it has secondary goals, of course, because he says that there are many people who reach this state and they think that's sufficient, and they think they're in the islands of the blessed and they don't want to do anything more and they don't want to come down and help mankind, and they're content and they stay there. And he said we must never let that happen in our state. Yeah, go ahead.
The next stage is to be the midwife.
Ah, that's right. We got a new stage in the midwife. That stinker is coming back. So, now we're going to shift now in the work called the Parmenides. All right, that's where we're going. Republic and Parmenides. What's the problem? The problem is that some people who reach that, they think they have reached the ultimate. They have reached the ultimate. They therefore stay there. They have nothing to do with society. They're willing to stay there for the rest of their lives in such idyllic states. And he says, but we must never allow that to happen in our just state now. Just state, of course, means, of course, a just soul, the soul itself. Therefore, in the development of the ideal state, it's nothing, of course, other than developing the ideal soul. So there must be something beyond for the soul than this experience, or the whole thing falls apart. Well, luckily enough, I happen to have brought the book with me, and I can read quickly a couple of pages. But before I do it, actually just 2 sentences. What we are now asking is, why is there a need for the dialectic, and what does the dialectic do? Another way of putting that is the idea of the good brings to birth both truth and reason. Dialectic is going to use that kind of reason. Now, the only thing we have that we can proceed from is just this one notion, that in this system, the good can be called the one. The reason why, of course, there are 2 names is that all men desire the good. Anything that man desires, he only desires it because he thinks for himself that it's good. He may be mistaken about what he calls good, But no matter who we are, if we have any life in us at all, we only want to seek what we think will bring us good. And that's the driving power behind all mankind. That's all. Now, on the other side, the thing that he desires most perfectly can also be described in other terms than the fact that he wants it and perceives it as good for himself. And that is, we can perceive it as a pure one. That's all we have, and now we're going to see whether or not we can come to this reflection. All right, this certain kind of reflection we want to engage in to see whether we can go beyond this with a certain kind of reflection called the dialectic, to see whether or not there's something beyond this, and if so, does it deserve the name of the one which then is the good? That's where we're going. All right? Okay. What's remarkable about the Parmenides is its simplicity. You can never be confused about any sentence. You can always be confused about how the sentences link one another together, but you can never be mistaken about what he says in any one sentence. So, all right. Now we want to see whether or not, I'm going to go there to the Parmenides, I'm going to make that point, but before I do that, I want those two sentences out of the Republic, which I now want to read in order to make the transition to the Parmenides. All right, here we go. I think I've had this book so long that I should just leave it and it should open up to the page by now. You know? So, but I'll have to, I'll get it. Let me sneak in a third sentence, all right, because I just saw a good one. All right? Then it is the task of us, the founders, to compel the best natures to attain that learning, which we said was the greatest, both to see the good and to ascend that ascent. And when they have ascended and properly seen, we must never allow them to do what is allowed now. Good heavens, what's that? To stay there and not be willing to descend again to those prisoners and share their troubles and their honors, whether they're worth having or not. We must never allow them to do what is allowed now. What's there? To stay there. See? To stay there. We must never allow them to stay there. The whole book is about this one problem. Okay, now. Yeah, okay, I'm on the wrong page. Okay. The dialectic method proceeds alone by this way, demolishing the hypotheses as it goes back to the very beginning itself,